In this video, I'm going to show you how I installed my mini split and what I love about it. All right, first thing we got to do is open up this so I can show you what's inside of there. First thing I love about a mini split is how quiet it is. It's running right now and you can barely hear it. In this bay of the bus is where the original over-the-road air conditioning condenser was, and so we took all of that out, and that left a perfect spot to put this one in. It's open on the bottom that allows air to come up from behind it and blow out through this fan this way. So it gets good airflow, and it couldn't fit in there better. This is a 36,000 BTU quad zone mini split. As far as I know, this is the biggest one they make that's still in a single fan unit. They do make bigger ones, but they usually have two fans stacked on top of each other, and obviously that wasn't gonna fit. Since this bay worked so well, I thought it was a lot better to have one big outdoor unit with a bunch of indoor units compared to using two smaller systems or three smaller systems and finding other places to try and fit these in. This bay just worked out so well, and I would highly recommend, if you're looking at a project like this, to put your mini split in this bay. It works great. Installing it in here actually wasn't that hard. You can see the feet of this are just bolted into the stainless steel frame that was already there. I did have to add a steel cross member on the back, but it wasn't very hard. And so physically fitting it in here was not hard. What was hard was running the line sets. So if you've never installed a mini split before, you have these outdoor units, then you have an indoor unit, and you have to connect them with an electrical line, which is pretty easy. That part's very straightforward. And then you have to run two different copper lines. One is pretty thin and fragile. The other one is thicker and more durable, but it's a lot harder to bend it without kinking it. This is running right now, and I hope you can't even hear it. So we have 4 of these inside the bus. This one and the one back here, so both of these, the front two in the living room area, these are both 12,000 BTU head units, I'm gonna call them. And then we have 2 that are further in the back, and those are each 9,000 BTU. And if you do the math, all of that adds up to a lot more than 36,000. 36,000 is what the compressor can do in the outside unit. So that is the maximum that it can put out. Then the inside units use that maximum capacity and divide it up amongst themselves based off of the needs of this area. So maybe if the back is, since it's a smaller space, those ones don't need to run as hard. So maybe these front two will be running flat out at 12,000 each, so that'd be 24,000 BTU. One of the ones in the back is running at 9,000 flat out. So then we're at what, 33,000? So then the very last one, maybe it just is loafing along at only 1,000 BTUs, or maybe it's not running at all. But so that's how these 4 units can be rated for what they are, but still only be supplied by a 36,000 BTU unit. Getting the lines from the outdoor unit to these inside units was by far the hardest part of this project. So we ran the lines underneath the floor, and then they came up these window pillars here. So these are plywood boxes behind this, this fabric here that I built around the window pillars. And I ran the lines inside of here, and then up behind and into these units here. This one was actually one of the easier ones. Some of the ones back there were a lot harder just based off of where they were. The real trick is that these line sets that came with this kit were only 16 feet long. So meaning that this had to be within 16 feet of the outdoor unit. And that wasn't possible with the layout of this bus. Just some of them had to be longer than that. So what we did is we had to extend some of the line sets, and doing that is not super hard. It was, I'd say, a lot more finesse than challenging. We'll talk about that. All right, so getting the lines up to each of these units is tricky. The hard part is that you have to be really careful when you bend these copper lines. So you have a 3/8 inch line, and then you have a 1/4 inch line. 1/4 inch line is very flexible. That one's pretty easy to work with. It's pretty delicate, so you really need to be careful working with it. Like you can, it's very easy to bend with your hand, very pliable. So you, I guess an important tip is that, so when you get them, they're coiled up, right, in a big roll. And it's tempting to just grab the middle and pull it out, kind of like a big spiral or a slinky or something like that. That's not good. Don't do that. That will cause huge problems. Instead, you want to unroll it like a fruit by the foot or something like that. You want to unroll it, and then you want to work with it that way. So you just need to be really careful with your bend radius. And these lines are also wrapped in an insulation layer that makes them a little more tricky to work with. The 3/8 inch line is thicker, obviously, and it bends a little more predictably, but it can be hard to fit it through like a small hole or something like that and get it around a corner. It's just not quite as pliable. So, you know, getting things to come up here and then make a hard 90 all within this decorative panel here, it just took a lot of finesse. So the real trick was that a lot of these lines needed to be extended, and you can buy longer line sets on Amazon or anywhere online, but they're crazy expensive, and I'd basically be wasting the lines that came with these things. So what I needed to do was just extend the ones that I already had. So I just went to Menards, a local hardware store, common in the kind of Midwest area here, and I bought a flare tool, and I bought 3/8 and 1/4 inch copper tubing rated for air conditioner use. It was still not super cheap, but it was a lot cheaper than buying a pre-made line set on the internet. So flaring those fittings to make them work was easy on paper, but hard to make it look and work good in real life. So I'll show you how I did that. But just know that I had to extend, I think, maybe 2 or 3 of these line sets to make them fit. And there was a lot of misinformation on the manufacturer's website, and I even called them and talked to someone that had no idea what they were talking about regarding how much refrigerant is in the system. And it was just very confusing, a lot of misinformation. One thing said that if you have any single line that's over 16 feet, then you have to add refrigerant. But I had some that are less than that and some that are more, and so I called them like, hey, the total length is less than if all of them were 20, or I think 25 feet is what I said in the manual. I said my total amount of lines being used is less than 100 feet. And so I should be good, right? Even though that one is going to be longer than that 25 feet. And they said, no, you have to add refrigerant. But I did a lot more research, and ultimately this ended up working out just fine. The refrigerant that comes in the head unit was more than enough to work with this whole system, and it really just, it wasn't a problem. Okay, so here we have, this is the 3/8 inch line. This is the thicker stuff, and this is the, I'd say this is the stuff that's a little harder to work with. This is actually a cutoff from my project there. So this is exactly the same material that I used. And so you can see, like, I can bend this open here, but it just takes a little bit more force, and it's you know, decently thick wall there. And I just want to show you guys how this flare fitting works. So this is the flare tool from Menards. It was, I don't know, 25 or 30 bucks. And basically what you need to do, as you can see, we have 5/8, 3/8, 3/16, 1/4, etc. on here. So you have all the different sizes of lines. So you're supposed to, this is 3/8 inch, so we're going to use this die. So you're supposed to put this in here like that. And you want this to stick out just a little bit beyond this die here. So that we're going to crank these wing nuts down. There's ridges in here that grip the copper, at least they're supposed to, pretty well. So we tighten these all the way. Then we have this thing. And so this slides over top of this die here. And I want to see if I can make this work for you. But so basically, the concept here is that this cone-shaped bit here is going to press down into that that copper and basically and expand it out. So here you can kind of see what we have going on there. So you can see as I tighten this, that is getting flared out. I mean, who knows, maybe this will work first try, but there's a good chance it won't, and I'll show you what goes wrong. So let's see, so I'm looking all the way around the edge here, and I'm trying to see if it has good, even flare on it. All right, so I'm going to back this off. So this is what we're left with now. So you can see that this got flared out. And now it is, in theory, well, if I would have done a better job, this would be ready to use on those other lines to extend them. But this one didn't turn out perfectly. And you can kind of see right here around the edge of this one actually kind of rolled a little bit. So let me get something better to point with. So you can see around the edge here, there's a little bit of like a bevel where this actually like curves back in. And you can see on the inside here, there's a little bit of a lip. And that lip is no good. When you do this perfectly, this nice flat surface here would extend all the way out to the rim. But I'm really having a hard time showing you, but there's this lip all the way around here. You can kind of see how this file sticks on that lip, and that is no good. If we tried to use this fitting, it would leak. So I tried using different lubricants, spraying on that cone there. I tried using some different waxes and oils, and basically what I came up with is that oil does help, but also you need to have the amount that this sticks out past the die is really critical. If it sticks out too much, which I think is what happened here, then you get this ring. But if it doesn't stick out enough, then you don't get enough flare either. So it's got definitely like a Goldilocks thing. You have to have it just right. So I'll take this out and show you what this looks like. But this one would not be usable. So I ended up having to do each of these several times to get one that worked. And that was a little bit frustrating, but we got there in the end. So you can see this has it looks okay, it's not bad, but that lip in there is no good. I wish I had another one to show you, but I don't. So there, the camera focus a little better like that. So you can see that lip in there. And if you're doing this and you have that lip, just cut it off and start over. It's just not going to seal right. The pressures in these systems are sometimes a couple hundred PSI, I think. Could be wrong on that. I kind of don't remember. This is several months ago, but it's definitely a lot of pressure, and you need to have a really good fit on there. Additionally, and I'm almost certain that you will not be able to see this, but since I was just goofing around here, I did not take any precautions, and some shavings from the copper actually got down inside of here. And on a mini split, that'd be no go. You can't have that. You do not want any foreign debris down in your line sets. If you're doing this, just make sure it's super clean in there. You could even consider stuffing like a small piece of like a t-shirt or something that doesn't have any lint on it that you could pull back out and make sure it's nice and clean in there. But that's that's what you got to do. So that's how these flare fittings work. But so if this was a good one, and then the other line set that I was extending had a good flare, then you buy a coupler. They're usually brass, and then these basically just you have a piece that slides over here and a piece that slides over the other bevel, and then there's the coupler in the middle, and then these necks kind of come, or these collars come over here and they thread together, and that's what gives you that seal there. So that's also a super important thing to remember, is that you need to put that collar over top of these lines before you do the flare fitting. Or else you might have a perfect flare, but you forgot to put the collar on first, and then you have to cut it off and start over anyway. Another important thing that I didn't talk about is this here. This is the condensation line. And so these, every one of these indoor units, when they are in air conditioning mode, they produce condensation, and that needs to drain away from the inside to the outside somehow. So not only do you have an electrical line, 2 copper lines, you also have a condensate line. And that is, I don't know, maybe about 3/4 of an inch. It's very flexible, but the key with that is it always has to be draining down. You can't have any loops in it, or like a U or anything like that that could cause an airlock. It's got to always be constantly going downhill all the way. Okay, so one of the things I'm learning, first of all, is that the lighting in this bus is not great for video, but it's what we have, so we're gonna go with it. So I want to show you all the indoor units here. So this one is in the front, and this is the frontmost one. This is a 12,000, and this one basically keeps the driver area cool, passengers when we're set up camping somewhere. Great when you're sitting on the couch. Then over here, we have this one in the kitchen area. This is also a 12,000 BTU unit. This is really great to have blowing on your back when you're cooking. Coming into the back of the bus here. Okay, so we're coming through here. This is our office area. You might have seen this on the tour. So we have this one here that blows kind of on the office area where my wife works, and I do too when I need to. It also blows directly on these bunks over here. Sorry about all the stuff that is piled on there right now. So we wanted our guest room office area to have its own climate control for obvious reasons. And I again want to comment on the noise and how quiet these are. So regular RV rooftop air conditioners, when they kick on, they're pretty loud, and yes, you can talk and have a conversation underneath them, but you probably wouldn't want one right over your computer if you're on a Zoom call or something like that. But this one, you'd never know it was there. They're so quiet, they hardly make any noise, and it doesn't interrupt your work at all. The last one is in the bathroom. So this is a 9,000. And this space is, you know, relatively small. It's just a shower and toilet. You guys have seen this on the tour. If you haven't, check out that video. Obviously, this just keeps the bathroom cool, but it also keeps the kids' room plenty cold enough. It does the job just fine. We definitely wanted one in the bathroom because you know, you take a nice hot steamy shower. We do have a roof vent up here that lets a lot of the steam out, but this air conditioner basically works as a dehumidifier, and that's something we needed, something we wanted, and I'm just very happy with where we put all these. So it works really well. I could not be more pleased with the system that we bought. I'm happy with where we spread them out when we're out camping, and it can be 95 degrees. We can keep it 68 in here comfortably without the system even working very hard, and with these huge windows that bring in a ton of heat. And we knew that they would, but it's worth it for the view. So we're just happy with the mini split systems. They work great. They're quiet. They don't use a lot of power compared to the rooftop units, and I don't know. This mini split system was definitely a lot more difficult to install than rooftop units, but I'm really glad I took the extra time and a little bit of extra expense to use these systems as opposed to the rooftop ones. It gave us a much better finished product, and we just couldn't be more happy with it. If you haven't seen our build video yet, go check that out. I can post it at the end of this video here. That shows you a little bit more about how we did everything in here. And if you have any more questions or something you want me to make a video on in the future, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to do it. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.